we were little girls, up the street, like 2 blocks to the west, was White's grocery store, and Mother never went to the store. And it was put on like credit, and Mother would send us up with a list of groceries, and we had to pass this house where the Eldridges lived. And in the first house was a little boy our age, but he never came out. He was very, very shy. Sometimes Mrs. Eldridge would come up and visit with Mother a little bit. And right next door to them lived Mr. Eldridge's mother and brother and sister. The brother was criminally insane, and he would get out, or he did get out of a mental institution and come back to live. And he was always trying to kill his mother and sister. And they would board themselves inside a bedroom in that house, scared to death. And they would put like the dresser in front, push the dresser in front of the door before they could go to bed. And anyway, we were always scared to walk past that house. And sometimes that criminally insane man would be walking at night. Mother used to walk all the time. She loved to go for walks. And Rosemary and I would be walking with Mother, and one time she saw Mr. Eldridge coming up the other side of the street. And so we ran into a service station there. And somehow Daddy came looking for us, and I can remember that man was kind of on the other side of this Division Street, and Mother was scared to go out to walk home, but Daddy came looking for us, and he found us inside the service station, hoping that he would come looking for us. And he put me up on his shoulders and carried me home, and we got home safely. But we were always scared to go to that White's grocery store, past that house where that criminally insane man went. And that his mother came with a petition and asked Mother to sign it, that he never be released. And Mother was really scared to sign it because afraid he would be released and would find out people who had signed that. But I don't know if she signed it or not. But his own mother was trying to get him to never be released again, because he was such a threat to people.
Yeah.
But we were always scared. Rosa and I would run to get past his house to go to Mr. White's grocery store, get the groceries.
The two of you would walk down there alone and get groceries?
It was 2 blocks up the street. 2 blocks up the street. Could go past his house and then across this busy broad street to Mr. White's grocery store. But Mother would never go to the grocery store. Daddy would go at night, and sometimes Mr. White would say, "Now you can't have any more on credit till your daddy pays for these groceries." He was kind of a cranky old man anyway. But we thought he was very rich, and we would get whatever Mother had on the list and put it on the counter. He would say, "You can't have any more credit. You tell your daddy until he pays this bill, you can't have any more credit." We didn't know what he was talking about, but Mother would make us go up there anyway with our grocery list.
Oh. Your dad sounds like he was really pretty tough too, huh?
Daddy was a pretty tough man. Raised on a farm and did a lot of street fighting, and one time he was considered like a tramp. He would hop on freight trains and go to, this was during the Great Depression, go to different areas to work on the WPA, whatever that would stand for. Worked for the WPA, and then one time he was just going down the road past Grandma and Grandpa's house in the country, and Mother was sitting out on the porch and waved to him, and then he and Mother got together and got married.
That's how they met?
Yeah, I think so. That's what I heard.
Aww.
And then they lived in Grandma and Grandpa's garage. They had a garage out there, and they fixed it up so that it was, just one big room in there. And then somehow Mother set the orchard on fire. I can't remember what it was.
No.
Anyway, and Mother was the Seventh Adventist to eat meat, and they moved into a little house. And Mrs. Mooneyham, Daddy's mother, would cook things like ham and say, well, she gets hungry enough, she'll eat it. But she didn't. And one day Daddy was driving a team of horses back to their little house on the farm, and he saw a rabbit, and he jumped off this wagon that he was on and landed on top of the rabbit and skinned it and took it in for Mother to cook. Mother always told that story about he jumped out of that wagon and landed on that rabbit. skinned it, and Mother had to cook it. She didn't eat any of it.
Hmm. Did you spend a lot of time with your grandparents?
No.
No.
You mean Mother's parents?
Yeah, because
Yeah, well, sometimes we would go. Well, at one point when I was very young, I don't know how old I was, but Daddy had driven us down to the public square, and we went back. The car was gone; it was stolen, and so we were without a car for, I don't know, it seems like 2 or 3 years, but I don't really know how long it was. But we didn't have a car, and so my Uncle Hosey and Aunt Pansy would sometimes be going down to Grandma and Grandpa's house, and they would take us with them, and sometimes we would stay all night because Grandma and Grandpa usually kept my cousin Warren. His mother was divorced from his dad, and then she moved away and married somebody else, and Warren was left with Grandma and Grandpa. So we would go stay in Grandma and Grandpa's house, and upstairs was divided into two. One was a bedroom, and one was like a open area, and there was a trunk in that open area that Mother always said, "Don't ever touch this trunk. Don't ever open it." That was little Hazel's trunk. Do not ever, and we didn't touch it. We just would look at it and wish we could open it. And then one time when Rose and I were there, and I think Warren was there too, we opened that trunk, never thinking that Grandma would find out. And in it was little Hazel's dress before she died, and a little lamp that somebody had given her, a little oil lamp, and some coins, and just little things that she had treasured. She died of, I don't know what it would be called now, dropsy was what Mother used to call it. But anyway, before she died, people would give her little things, and Grandma just kept her things in that little trunk upstairs. I think my cousin Sue Ann still has little Hazel's dress kind of in a big frame, because it was a very pretty little, very fancy dress that somebody had given to her, and when she died, I suppose she just had on a nightgown. I don't know, I have no idea. But anyway, I think I saw it in Sue Ann's house, little Hazel's dress. But oh, Grandma was mad when she came upstairs. She was furious with us because we got into little Hazel's things.
Tell the story of little Hazel and Leonard.
Well, little Leonard was just a baby when he died, and back then families had lots of children. Like Grandma had 8 children. Little Leonard was the last, I believe, of all the children. And Hazel was like, I think she was about 9 years old, 8 or 9 years old. And every Sunday they would walk all the way out to the graveyard. I have no idea how far it was, but it was a long distance. And the little girls used to wear these long dresses, you know. And little Hazel, as weeks went by, she would say her legs hurt so bad she just couldn't walk anymore. She just couldn't. And they would say, "Little Hazel, that we're going to little Leonard's graveyard. You have to walk." And then when she couldn't walk anymore, Grandpa would carry her. Anyway, they didn't have a car, and little Hazel always wanted to go for a ride in a car. She always wanted to go for a ride in a car. Anyway, at some point they realized that her legs were so swollen, like, you know, great big, they were filled with like water. And Mother always said she had dropsy, but for some reason her mother, my grandma, was so grief-stricken about little Leonard that she really didn't pay enough attention to little Hazel. And all the people were gathered there, and little Hazel looked at her hand and she said, "I'm going to die." And her aunt, I've forgotten the aunt's name, she said, "Oh, Hazel, don't say that. Don't you see how your mother is grieving so?" And she grabbed her and took her into another bedroom. She said, "Look at my hand." And there was a picture of her, Hazel, like, it gives me chills even to think about it, laying in a casket. And the aunt looked at it and she said, "Oh, Hazel." You know, and she closed her hand and she looked again. It was still there in her hand, just like a picture of her laying in the casket. And shortly after that, Hazel, they buried Leonard, and then, you know, they would try to walk out to the cemetery, and little Hazel would say her legs hurt so bad. And sure enough, she she had a bad sickness, and the doctor would come to see her in the house there, and she would always say, we'd say, "What would you like?" And she would like to ride in a car. So when they came to pick her up after she had died, they put her in this car and drove her to wherever they took people when they die. So she got to ride in her car. But people would come and they would bring her, a long time ago, a nickel would be quite a bit of money. You know, you could buy candy bar with a nickel. Well, you could buy lots of things, but people would buy her little coins, and she had them all saved in this little trunk up in Grandma's attic. I don't know whatever happened to them, but all those little things that belonged to little Hazel.